am Bryan Grossman, Editor-in-Chief here at the Colorado Springs Independent. This is the Indy 15, the weekly show that recaps what you need to know in the news. Our guest in the studio today is Managing Editor Helen Lewis. Helen, welcome to the Indy 15.
Hey, Bryan. Thank you for having me.
It's been a while, right? A week since you were here last?
Yeah, a whole week.
Okay.
Yes.
So usually with the Indy 15, we sort of go over the paper and talk about the news you need to know, but we had sort of breaking news. You were up all night writing a story about a state senator. Do you want to sort of set the stage?
Yeah, so yesterday late, we got information about a memo of investigation from the Colorado Ethics Institute calling on the 4th Judicial District Attorney's Office to investigate Senator Hisey. Mm-hmm. And the question that they were raising, what they wanted investigated, was whether he was claiming a district of residence that he didn't actually live in, mm-hmm. and had therefore illegally voted in the Republican primary election in June. Right. So they actually had an investigator, I guess, watch him mm-hmm. for 4 months. And what they were alleging was that it gets a little bit complicated with the districts because there was redistricting going on. And so Senator Hisey had moved from his residence in Fountain mm-hmm. to Colorado Springs. Essentially, the redistricting meant that he had been sort of drawn out of his office, mm-hmm. as they say, or out of his district. So what the CEI was saying is that he was claiming a residence in Colorado Springs, but not really living there. Right. They had a whole lot of information. You can see in the story online mm-hmm. All of the points that they put forward to say this isn't his real home. Right. Yeah.
And that's csindy.com. You can find the story on there. And what were some of those? There were things like he was mowing the lawn at what's not supposed to be his legal residence, right? So why would you be mowing that lawn? But yeah.
Yeah, there were a number of them. They were paying attention to where his vehicles were, mm-hmm. where he was leaving from to go to the state capitol, mm-hmm. Where he was receiving mail, where he was mowing the lawn, where he was doing what they called normal homeowner activities. Right.
Answering the door mm-hmm. was one of the things. So somebody
answering the door. Yeah.
So slight detour. This is funny because Hisey's not the first to have experienced this even recently.
Right.
Senator Pete Lee has also had residency issues. Mm-hmm. Mark Waller, when he ran for district attorney against Mark Allen, also had residency issues. He had a house up in Palmer Lake and where he would be representing people. And he actually, our own reporter, Pam Zubek, went mm-hmm. to Mark Waller's house, I think at like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and knocked on the door, and he answered in his robe. So it was legit. We knew that Mark actually lived there.
Yeah.
It just seems really odd that, do you think this is, people aren't aware of the rules? Do you think they are aware of the rules and they're just?
Do I think the people in question are aware, or the rest of us? Because I think it does seem it struck me that the person in the street probably wouldn't know what the requirement is, and it has become, I think, for everybody pretty confusing with the redistricting. Right. And I did not knock at any of Senator Hisey's doors, but I did catch him on the phone yesterday afternoon. Yep. And, the way he explained it, and you can see this in the story online, is he said, the redistricting took longer than we thought, mm-hmm. And I had to move in a hurry. But what he ended up doing was having a room, as he put it, in a house in District 11, mm-hmm. And what we...
Senate District 11.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, yes, Senate District 11. And, what we've been told, and appears to be his stepson's home. Right. His wife still lives in Fountain. He said she's keeping Fountain as her primary residence. So there's a whole lot of all of these parts of what constitutes a primary residence. The complaint, or rather the memo of investigation from CEI, goes into a lot of detail. Mm-hmm. There's about, I think, like 10 or 13 pages, something like that. And you'll be able to see that online as well if you're interested in diving in. And they had pictures of him mowing the lawn and his truck leaving various driveways and things like that. So, yeah, there's a lot to it, and yeah, people are definitely people are definitely getting caught up in this, whether it's primaries or other voting.
And one thing to note about Hisey, he's District 2 state senator now, but he is running for the new Senate District 11.
Right.
To represent Senate District 11. So it's a different district from what he's representing now. And it seems really odd to me that you can be just taken out of your district. I mean, like, you buy a house and you want to represent your district, and then when they do redistricting, you may not qualify to represent that district anyway. And that seems like maybe a way to keep people out of wanting to be in politics. I mean, you never know what's going to happen to your district. Yeah,
and there's a lot going on with districts at the moment.
Right.
And, it's very much a hot issue. And one of the things he also, now he no longer lives has that room in that residence that we're talking about that's believed to be his stepson's, but he has taken another apartment within Senate District 11.
But his wife doesn't live there.
But his wife doesn't live there. And as
whatever floats your boat, I guess.
From what he said, she's not planning to either.
Yeah.
So that's that is pretty confusing. Another thing that he mentioned was that he was dividing his time because he was still taking care of Senate District 2 business. His constituents are there, but he's campaigning for District 11. That's a funny situation as well.
Yeah.
So.
Lots of stuff going on there.
Lots of stuff going on.
Yeah, so check that out at csindy.com. It'll also be in the print edition next week, which I believe is August 31st.
Sounds right.
Last one of August, moving into September.
Yeah.
But we did actually do a paper this week, right? We have a paper out this week.
A whole paper.
Yeah,
it's a good one too.
To do with Dennis Hisey. This week's paper is the cover. Is about monkeypox. Yeah, you can see right there.
Oh, okay.
Hold it up.
Yeah.
I'd actually rather be playing this right now. I was just talking to Nick, one of our gaming nerds who's in the room.
Yeah.
And he said, you could probably actually make that playable. So I said anytime a new virus comes out, we need to do sort of a retro game that you can play to destroy the virus.
I will lose at every single one of them.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
The story is written by Anna Fiorino. Some people may be familiar with Anna's work. She used to be a staff reporter here. Unfortunately, she moved away because her boyfriend's in the military and they make you do things like that. So she's our East Coast correspondent.
That's right.
Out of Virginia. But she did write about monkeypox and how worried we should be. And it turns out sort of
worried.
Not COVID worried.
No.
Because that's sort of what we compare everything to now. But it's contagious and it's making its rounds and it's a public health emergency now. Here in Colorado Springs, it's not out of control, but I think experts are urging people to be vigilant, know the symptoms, know if you think you've been exposed. We even talk about what to do if you think you've been exposed in here. We talk about places you can go to get more information, learn about the symptoms. So
I think it's really good because I really like this story because I think everybody is it's got all the information in one place, and I think everyone's just a bit tired.
Sick and tired.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Thank you. Of going and hunting the information down themselves and figuring out whether it's reliable. So Anna was talking to all the reliable sources. It's all this information in one place. It's a great read. Yeah, we have
some hospital info in there. We have Phoebe Lestreau, who we've also interviewed back in the COVID days. She's an epidemiologist, I believe, with Colorado College. So check out the story, whether you're scared of monkeypox or not. The cover's really cool.
The cover's very cool.
So thank you, Dustin Glatz, for designing that. Other stuff in here. We got just tons of news going on right now. Greta's story about UCCS. Greta Anderson, one of our staff reporters, wrote about the cyber apprenticeship program.
Right. She's been following that for a while.
Right. And the real basics to that was there was a program that UCCS said for cyber students would get you into apprenticeships. They would get you into an apprenticeship. I think was the idea.
a part the specific part of the program was basically a year's worth of
Right.
apprenticeship, a working year of apprenticeship, and that was key to the program.
Right. But students were not getting those apprenticeships, that they said essentially it wasn't delivering on
Yeah.
promises.
There wasn't even one.
And then there was an audit of the program, and it found that it was kind of in disarray. So
Yeah. So that's a good story. There's a couple. Greta's got that story in there, but she's got a bit of previous reporting on it too that we point back to that's really interesting and useful, and has some of these first-person stories about the students that were impacted by it. Some of them really did uproot their lives to come do this program for the
Right.
apprenticeship component.
And it's the UCCS College of Business Colorado Cybersecurity Apprenticeship Program. So
Yeah.
if you want to search that and read previous reporting from Greta about that, it's a great story. Motion denied. Another Helen Lewis story. We're gonna promote you to reporter, Helen, instead of managing editor, because you've written most of the story lately. Talk about that one, because that's also very interesting.
So, which page are we on? Hold
That's
on.
That's page
I want to hold it up.
6, and this is
no,
about...
I'm not going to hold it up because I'm not going to mess with the mic.
Right.
I'm learning. This is a really interesting story about Colorado Springs Forward, which is a nonprofit here in town, and another case of somebody coming forward and saying they're not doing the right thing.
Something smells fishy.
Something is wrong with this. So this is about illegal donations that were made to two county commissioner candidates. Those donations were returned, I should point out. But the...
Holly Williams and Cammie Bremer
Correct.
were the candidates.
Yeah, that's right. The point was that these donations were double the amount that was allowed, and were also made by a part of Colorado Springs Forward that was not supposed to be engaging in any political donations. So Colorado Springs Forward had made a response in the investigations, basically saying, "Oh, it was our volunteers. Our volunteers made a mistake." The motion was, I should just get the motion right, because it was an order denying the motion to dismiss the case against Colorado
essentially
Springs
saying
Forward.
the case can go on.
The case can go on, and it said it wasn't the volunteers.
Right. It was the judge, right? The opinion of... Was it the judge?
Deputy Secretary of State.
There we go.
So
Okay.
Beal. And he said, no, this was Phil Lane's signature. I should back up a little bit and explain. It's kind of complicated, but probably the part that I would read was, about the email we received was, I'll read part of it because I think it's interesting.
That's what I was looking for.
The story of illegal donations to County Commissioners Holly Williams and Cammie Bremer began in June 2021 when the County Commissioners voted to donate $500,000 to the Olympic Museum, operated by Phil Lane. Now, Phil Lane, I'll just sidebar, was the acting CEO at the time. This donation in itself is unremarkable due to the fact that COVID-19 had shut down the Olympic Museum. However, 4 months later, Mr. Lane, in his capacity as a financial director for Colorado Springs Forward, issued illegal campaign donations in the amount of $5,000 to campaigns of both Holly Williams and Cammie Bremer. In some minds, these donations gave the appearance of a quid pro quo. So that was sort of at the heart of that. In this motion to dismiss, it basically was saying, no, this wasn't a mistake, and I think there's a pull quote in there that says, essentially the Colorado Springs Forward
knew what they were doing, and tried to cover it up. That was the part, and that Beal's opinion was that the nonprofit had engaged in what he called substantial political activity. So. That case is going to go ahead now. We haven't been able to get anybody
from Colorado Springs forward to respond on the phone or by email. So we're going to wait with interest to see what happens next in that case.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the show, and that's just the news section.
Just the news section.
Yeah, and we still
There's
have
so much more.
food and music and, astrology, if you're into that sort of thing. So it's a packed paper. There's lots of good stuff this week.
Yeah, it's a fantastic paper, and I'm making all paper noises with it, so.
Sorry. And next week, just a little preview, we're going to have a music cover that's September. Sorry, yeah? Is that right? Next week is going to be Mill Street Blues. So we're looking at the Mill Street neighborhood. That's Amelia Allen's story.
Yeah.
And what some residents there are doing to try to prevent the same results that have happened with similar neighborhoods in the past, like Lowell, Conejos.
Yeah.
So some of those same threats are facing Mill Street now, which, if you're not familiar, it's around the Drake power plant. And with Drake shutting down, there's obviously going to be a lot of conversation about what to do with that's prime property. And,
sort of that question of revitalization versus gentrification, what happens to the residents.
Yep.
And there's a lot of good that comes with it, but then there's real people caught in the middle.
Yep. So that's next week. That's August 31st. And then the following week is a music cover from music editor Bill Foreman on Davachka. So look for that. Other than that, thank you, Helen, for joining us in the studio today.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks to the audience. Don't forget to pick up this week's issue of the Indy. There it is again, up right. With monkeypox, available on newsstands and digitally through our website, csnd.com. Let us know what you thought about the show or the paper on our social media and everywhere else. We read every single thing you post, so post away. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to click that bell to get notifications whenever we post new videos. This show was produced by Dave Gardner and Nick Raven. The video cast was directed by Dave Gardner and distributed by our digital team, which is Sean Cassidy and Michaela Jones. Dustin Glatz is our art director, Amy Gillentine is our publisher, and I'm editor-in-chief Bryan Grossman. Thanks again to Helen Lewis, managing editor. Be sure to join us next week for another episode of the Indy 15.